there was the health thing, but then there's everything that you see. Funny that you talk about when you talk about war and you talk about there needing to be an enemy, but at the beginning of COVID, teachers were heroes,
Mm,
and as it started to come back, schools and teachers almost seemed to become the enemy again.
really
And
interesting.
and as a teacher, there are times where we are vilified. You know, I had a horror story of a friend of mine who was wearing a mask, and a parent walked up and ripped the mask off their face. Why does that matter that the teacher is wearing a mask? Why does that matter? But it is, I don't know. The teacher is symbolic of something. It's symbolic of the school. And I'm just trying to do my job. I'm trying to help your child. I'm trying to do that. And I feel like you know, we've been vilified again. And again,
Mm,
like all the other essential workers, I'd like tend to like we still respect nurses. We understand that they're doing their job. And I have a family of nurses. My cousins and my aunts are nurses. Um, and we have firefighters and police officers who are still out there doing what needs to be done, and we have people putting up ways to supporting them. um, but I feel like teachers have gone back to where we were after being hailed as the people who held kids together, and we're so proud of them. I had a person the other day, and it's been a while since I heard this. I had a parent that I registered for camp because I'm doing the summer camp stuff as well, who, when he found out that I was a teacher, was like, I want to thank you for what you've done. And the first thing that he said was, I can only imagine the abuses that you have gone through. And I
mm,
just kind of sat back and I went, it's kind of sad that that's the thought that he thinks of when he
mm.
thinks about me as a teacher, is
Interesting.
think about the like the abuses you must have gone through. And I'm like, yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. Dave, what do you think
Uh,
as a parent?
it was very, very upsetting to watch the abuse the teachers got in our district. We were, I think, the parents who are like mask and let's do what needs to be done. We're very taken aback by in a board meeting on Zoom of how vicious people were to the teachers.
Mhm.
Like we were like, what is this? But you know, we actually have a board member that there's an anti-mask group, and he told the board member told them you have to attack the union and the teachers. So it's a really dangerous thing, and we're going to lose teachers. We're going to lose a lot of teachers, and
We
we're going to have we already had a problem, and now we're
we
going to
we
have worse.
are.
I, I'm curious.
Yeah.
Is this an elected board? Like we have school committee here in Massachusetts.
Yeah, so the interesting thing is, like, I live in a very sort of strange community. So it's Glendale Unified, which is not LAUSD. It's outside of that, and we have a very large Armenian population, and we have a large Korean population and a large white population. The Armenian population mostly controls elected officials, so most of our elected officials are Armenian, and because of that, it's a little more conservative. A lot of their meetings are a little more conservative than everybody else in the district, but they largely just vote. We had people in there that they're not wartime generals, right? They are just people who are like, I'm going to be on a school board. And so no one really paid attention. Like, well, they're a little bit conservative, but it's not that big of a deal because everyone's in this together. But then when COVID hits, all of a sudden they were a different kind of conservative. Now we have people that don't believe in COVID conservative, as opposed to just everyone wants an education conservative. So it was more like they're elected, but I mean, one of them didn't even run against anybody else. She was the only person running, and everyone was like, yeah, her. So it's just one of those situations. And so it's a little conservative leaning, and there's the weird dynamic of the ethnicities going on that's just always makes things a little weird and complicated. As far as the teachers, watching them get abused was really hard. But then on the other hand, so my son, one of the reasons he really didn't want to go back to school is because he has his main teacher, and then once a day he has a class with two other teachers, right? So 2 different periods. Well, one of them we knew through baseball was someone who did not believe in COVID and was traveling all the time and going to tournaments and doing all this stuff. And so one of the reasons my son did not want to go back to school when the schools opened up was because of her. And she, when I was watching his Zoom class one day, she had on a mask that you're not supposed to have on. It was like a see-through thing that didn't. And so I sent a letter to the principal and I was like, you just got to get her in a regular mask. So that affirmed my son's, fears. He's like, yeah, that's why I don't want to go. And then her husband got COVID. And she still sent her 2 children to school, and she still taught while her husband had COVID in the house. And he got COVID on Sunday, and on Friday, it was revealed the 2 kids and her all had COVID, and 78 kids throughout the district had to be quarantined for 10 days. And she was not punished. Nothing happened to her. Everyone acted like it didn't happen. No one acknowledged it publicly.
Wow.
And it's things like that you're like, what does this district care about? And at the same time, now you have teachers. That doesn't help the other teachers. When there's a teacher coming with COVID, it's just a mess. And to try to maneuver it is crazy making.
I wonder how the other teachers responded to that.
I know I have a friend who's on the inside of the district, so I hear all the stuff. They were not happy. They were very, very, very upset by it. They also, had to, because the kids, they also had to quarantine for 10 days because the kids in their class, the 2 kids. So yeah,
And
no one was pleased.
And they don't think about the chain reaction that happens from that. That was the thing that was extraordinary to me, were all these chain reactions, that because of that choice of that teacher, now all these people are affected by that, who are forced to quarantine, who are forced to do this, who are forced to do that. And it really, I saw it a lot at my school. There were, once we started coming back, there were points where, and I'm not past, I don't know per se the stories, but they would happen, these little pockets and these little bubbles, and they would expand and they would expand and expand, and it was horrifying. And again, I was very lucky that I did not personally end up in any of those situations during this time. I've been very blessed and very fortunate, but it does not mean that I, ever pulled my mask down or that I didn't play it safe. And it's hard. It's hard because, and we've always, I had a mentor teacher who said, the sad tragedy, Chris, of the job that you're going to do is sometimes everything that you do in the classroom is reset when they go home. And, you can build a community in the classroom where you say, we need to respect each other and we need to all wear our masks and we all need to stay separate. We all need to do that. And you win that fight until 2:30, when they get in the car with a parent who says, take that thing off your face. It's ridiculous. I can't, your classmates are idiots for doing that. And that's the sad truth of it,
Is that part of, you think, why it's so common resentment toward teachers, that it sort of symbolizes a challenge to a parent's influence over their own kids?
I think we're seeing that out in the world right now. The question of, what should and should not be taught in school. This is all the same issue. This issue of what should and should not be taught in school goes as deep as just teaching sex ed. Well, I don't want my kid learning about that. I don't want my kid doing this. I don't want them being told that. I don't, that's always the crux of the issue. That's always, how much influence do parents have on the system itself? How much influence should a parent have on the influence itself? You know, it's hard. You know, I have to go. You know, I don't know always how I feel about that issue, but we are seeing it now. And the arguments that are going on about what should be taught in school is the same argument that we had about COVID, and it's the same argument that's happened before. I think that COVID was just the current evolution of a problem that we have always seen. You know, again, I remember as a kid, arguments going on about sex ed, about whether or not it should be taught in school, or what it should be that should be taught in school. And I remember when I was a kid, a school board meeting where people were arguing about, well, I don't want my kid to sit through that. I don't think that should be taught in school. People were like, well, I don't want to have that conversation, so I want the school to have that conversation.
Mm.
You know?
You know, there's something else that is like not being talked about, and that's my son, when he started 7th grade, he fell in love with history. I was like, oh, here we go, because he had an amazing teacher. He's like, this guy is so great. And he was thrilled, and he's
nothing to do with his dad, though, Dave.
Yeah, I know, right?
Nothing. Come on.
But he's like talking about Greek history, and he's getting very excited, and then the teacher gets COVID, and he comes back, and he's different.
Mm-hmm.
He's a little more grumpy, and he's easy to anger. And my son is like, now he's like, that was my favorite class, but I don't, like, he's not. And I explained to him, like, you know, some people have a hard time and change their bodies, and then he got COVID again, and now he is a completely different human being. And he is just angry and mean, and it's really hard. It's been a hard thing for my son to watch, and all the other kids, because they loved this guy. And it's like, we're not factoring in what, besides just people dying, like it's really changing people.
Yeah.
And we have teachers that are, a lot of them are getting COVID because of what we're putting them through. And that's hard on them as people to go through it and do their job.
Stretch the canvas, brush it now.